All right. It's been several months, and I take the blame for that and slacking. And I mean, we had a lot of stuff going on over the summer, and especially with Nick and Jason getting back into school and whatnot, and kind of getting settled back in after the long break. But we were going to do this months ago.
Yeah, like April or May,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it was a while.
So maybe this topic is why we took a break, because it was such a difficult beast to come to terms that we have to talk about this.
But Nick, I'll let you say what the topic is since you came up with it.
I came up with this.
No, I think I unfortunately did.
Yeah.
You? See, that's what happens when we don't do episodes in 15 years. I can't remember what happened.
In 19 weeks.
No, the episode is the Priest
Dark
album.
years.
What's up?
The dark years.
The dark years. Yeah, no, it was you, Pat. The Ripper albums, Ripper Priest albums versus the Blaze Maiden albums, but then we also threw in the albums that from Dickinson and Halford that they released while out of like around the same time. Right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't think that I would be like, at first I was like I just, yeah, this would be a good episode. But then I was like starting to freak out going, man, what if I can't make it through these albums? And, I'm not going to have anything to talk about. But I was actually blown away. I was all over the place with it. There were like some surprises. One surprise one thing that wasn't a surprise was Demolition, which is an utter piece of shit. Total crap, but
Embarrassingly bad.
Just bad. But I don't know, man. It kind of blew me away listening to basically 6-8 albums, and there was a lot of songs that, I don't know, really stuck with me. I think I didn't think that I would hate the Priest album so much, but I don't know. What about you guys?
Oh God. Yeah.
Well, I think what made me realize that, it had to happen is when we were kind of talking about it after we finished the last episode, and Nick was like doing his Blaze impersonation of 2 a.m. and Como Estás, Amigo. I mean, I was like, I got to go back and listen to these, because those Maiden albums, I mean, I'd probably of all of those four, the 2 Maiden and the 2 Priest, easily, I would say Jugulator is the one I've listened to the most, like kind of back after it came out. And the rest of them, I've never, until getting ready for this, listened to start to finish. And I still haven't done that with Demolition, because I can't make it that far. I can make it like 2 songs and be like, God, give me the X Factor. Please give me the X Factor. Or not the X Factor, Virtual 11, something worse.
Yeah, it was torture for sure. Yeah, so my experience with this was, I'm a little bit younger than you, Jason and Pat, but I didn't get into Maiden until high school, so like 94 for me, 95, and obviously pre-internet and everything. So the only albums I knew were, you had to buy CDs or tapes back then, and I bought all the classic ones. And Bruce wasn't in the band. I didn't even really know what was going on with them, and I knew there was someone else singing, I think, but I didn't know anything about the X Factor. So the first album Iron Maiden I bought new was Virtual 11. So I went into the CD store. I'm like, yes, a new Maiden. Let's fucking go.
But then you saw the cover.
And then I saw the cover. I pretended that was like, I don't know. I overlooked that. I don't know how I could have, the guy with the virtual mask.
The kid with the virtual glass.
And then, so I drive away from the store. I put it on, like, Future Real. Okay, not too bad. And then the second Angel and the Gambler hit, I think I pulled over and cried in my car. Just so, it starts off with the organ with the slide up and like, oh no.
A little Casio keyboard.
Oh God. And yeah, so yeah, that was my first new Maiden experience of my life, and I've been scarred ever since.
Go ahead, Jason.
What else is there to say? Yeah, I really don't even know where to start other than I think I heard Future Real and I just avoided it. I just turned my back to Maiden. I'm like, all right, this band's dead. And I don't even know where to go after that. But as far as the Priest goes, personally, Ripper to me is better than Blaze. I don't even know what Blaze's nationality is. Is he also British?
Yeah.
Or is he, okay. So that's kind of where the connection goes. Because as I was driving home today, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, how did this guy get this gig? How did he get the Iron Maiden gig?
Well,
And there's a lot of people on the Brave board that just love his solos.
yeah, that's what I want to know, because I can't bring myself to listen to it. But so many people say, "Oh, don't think about the Maiden albums. The Rippers or the Blaze solo albums they're really good." But listening to him on both these albums, especially, well, both of them, it's like half the time it doesn't even sound like he's singing. He's kind of like, it's like and I don't know if part of it's the production. I mean, I'm not going to blame it all on the production, but it's like, what's he doing? Is he just kind of like speaking the words? There's no range to him. I don't know.
There's a lot of that speaking stuff, like the beginning of 2 a.m. or Como Estas, right?
No, that's legit speaking, but I'm talking about when he's actually, what I think is him singing. It's like, it's really flat sounding. It's just monotone.
Yeah, he's not out of tune flat. It's just
right.
It's lifeless flat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jason, to answer your question, I don't know how this happened, but I was reading, I think when I got the Best of the Beast, that compilation that had the Virus, they released that Virus single on it, came out like in 98 or something. And I was reading the liner notes inside of it, said, Dickinson leaves and Iron Maiden had an audition process and they had thousands of people apply, and only one voice leapt out of the audition tapes as much as Blaze Bailey's. His voice leapt out to you? That's fucking impossible. Of all the people, that's the one that leapt out. And then I went back as a joke and I found his Wolfsbane CD, his previous band, and so I bought that out of morbid curiosity. And it's fucking like, this is the guy Iron Maiden said, yep, he's it. He's gonna take us to new heights.
Well, that Wolfsbane was on, I think they're on Deaf American. Wasn't it produced by Rick Rubin? The one album? It was like,
maybe.
I think I got like a half a track in before I turned it off. So
not good. I never got into it. I will say his solo stuff, well, yeah, the one album, Blood and Belief and stuff, like musically, it's great. And he's actually not bad on it. I mean, there's some really good material in there. My first Maiden was Fear of the Dark. So I can remember, do you remember the pay-per-view Maiden had?
Raising Hell, Bruce's last show?
Yeah, it was his last show. I remember seeing that.
With the magician?
Oh, Raising Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garbage.
All I'm thinking about right now is Pat is how young Kip and Nick are. My first Maiden is Fear of the Dark, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm in my early 20s by then.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I remember when X Factor came out, I bought it. I always liked the cover of it. I like how it was like, or an actual like sculpture or whatever, real. But I think it goes that anytime there's a change in, it's no longer Derek Riggs, or if there's a change in a logo, you're always like, oh, here we go. It's going to be different, And
and you could tell too.
But did Riggs do like Fear of the Dark?
No,
He didn't do Fear of the
No, he
Dark
didn't
either.
do-
It was, yeah.
Nick would know. I don't.
no,
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. But I think No Prayer was his last one.
Yeah,
right?
I think No Prayer was.
Okay. But yeah, when it came to X Factor with like the actual kind of practical effect.
I liked it. People shit on it, but I think it's cool.
Yeah.
It fits the mood of the album. It's definitely a darker album,
And I don't, I never hated the album. I always thought some of the songs were overblown, which I think is something that Maiden hasn't been able to shake in decades, or the long ass drawn out songs. But he really he wasn't too terrible on it. And I kind of thought, I mean, this guy's nowhere near as good as Dickinson, but whatever. But when Virtual 11 came out, I remember I went into a CD store in Canton, named Checkered Records, and he had it sitting there. And the owner, his name's George, he passed away several years ago. The guy chain smoked. Everything you bought in there smelled like smoke. It was like a bowling alley. Sit there, just smoke.
Your fingers were yellow after opening the cellophane on the CD, and then they
I
had a
remember
thrift store smell.
I was like, Nick, I was like, oh my God, it's the new Maiden, I was so excited. And he just looked at me, and he wasn't one for words. He was a really nice guy, but he would just sit straight up with a cigarette. And as soon as I got really excited, he just looked at me and he was like, like, what's wrong? And he was like, just buy it. He was like, just buy it and then come back and tell me. And I was just mortified. It was like the worst. It was so bad. The Angel and the Gambler was so, and they repeat the same lines.
Oh, like, did you guys see Real Dead One's charts about repetitive Maiden lyrics on the board? He counted
He counted them out.
Yeah. And X Factor blows every other album out. Like they use at least the same 3-word phrase like 245 times on that album or something like that.
Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous.
I mean, don't you think I'm a stranger? Don't you think I could save you? Oh my God, that did not need to be said at least 18 times in that song.
That's why it should have been just cut, and
well, that's my problem with X Factor. Actually, there's some, when Blaze isn't singing, I think some of the harmonies are classic Maiden harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the choruses are good. It's just, God damn it, like I don't need to hear this 500 times. It's mind-numbingly boring at that point. But for a second, that album tricks me because it's like, ooh, this is good, and then it goes right back off the rails, and then they bring back a cool harmony again, and it goes right back to shit.
Yeah,
sucks. And the lyrics, I mean, there's plenty of bad lyrics in the Priest albums too, but some of these ones from Virtual 11, like when 2 worlds collide. The anger and the pain, like who will remain? No one's gonna remain if 2 worlds collide. Everyone's fucking dead, dude. Like, of all those who remain, like who will survive when 2 worlds collide? Nobody, Blaze. Jesus.
What's that? What's the last track on X Factor?
The Unbeliever.
Yeah. That's the one. It has that just little. The way it starts is the way it finishes, and it's just like this. The biggest whimper.
It's that awful bass. It's the bass guitar and the right cymbal.
And it's like that's how a Maiden album ends. Like
Jason's just speechless. Jason's like, I don't even know what to say.
All I have here, people, are my statistics. I've got stats here if you want to hear.
Let's go. Let's bring up. It's just we didn't really plan what we're doing here, so it's
No.
bust out the Maiden for a bit, then we'll go to Priest. So,
Okay, so
what do you got on Maiden?
what I got for these 2 albums is the X Factor comes out in November of '95. On Metal Archives, the X Factor has an average of 77%.
Wow.
Yeah. In the US, it sells 112,700 units. In the world, the X Factor sells 1.2 million units. It reaches number 147 on Billboard, and it is 71 minutes long.
Yeah.
Virtual 11, 1998, April of 98, sells only 65,200 units in the US, 700,000 in the world, but somehow it reaches 124 on the Billboard, even though X Factor only reached 147, and it's 53 minutes in length for a grand total of 124 minutes and 21 seconds of pure, unadulterated, dissonant crap.
Yeah, that's the first time I saw Maiden too, was on that tour. And it was like, you know, after watching Live After Death and Made in England on VHS over and over again, just going to a third filled arena, you know, in LA. Just like, I think Dio opened on that tour though. But
For which tour?
Virtual 11.
Wow.
And the Tribe of Gypsies, like Roy Z's band or something like that. I don't know. It was just whatever it was just like, I'm like, it was really sad. Just the only people there were just diehard white trash Maiden fans. There was, and like there was no stage show like there is now. There was no big production, you know, and then having to hear Lord of the Flies live and fucking, it was just good. Back when Yannick was writing every song with that staccato pattern on every song, it was, yeah. And then that's when the Yannickism started. He was fucking prancing around like some, I think he was just so bored up there with these awful songs. That's why Yannick had to entertain himself on stage. I don't know.
Yeah.
His little scissor kicks and his swinging the guitar around. That was like a dark year for a dark era. A couple of years for metal. You know, that whole, like, everything was changing. I don't know how it was overseas, but it seems like all of those bigger bands, I think like Dio came out with Angry Machines, which I was like, oh God, I'm not into that.
Bad. It's bad.
Ozzy was gone. Like, I just, after Osmosis, I was like, this guy's a joke. And, you know, the Maiden stuff was not good. And then, you know, the Priest stuff, I can remember going into Best Buy with, you know, a guy that, you know, Jason, you and Pat know, and that's Mark. And I went into Best Buy, and we went into Best Buy in Canton, and I bought Priest, Jugulator, and Dokken Shadow Life on the same day. And it was like one of the worst music buying days. And again, Dokken, completely different logo, absolutely terrible album cover. And I was like, oh man, what is this? And then Jugulator was like all pixelated. It was like there's like an actual picture there, but it's like it's zoomed in, and it's like all, it looks blurry and pixelated. And
the inlay is way better.
Yeah. And I remember
they had a logo change too. God.
Yeah, that's exactly. And the Priest logo sucked.
Priest logo looks like it was done on a, you know, someone's dorm printer that had color ink.
Yeah. And I think that was like the era of CMC International Records. Is that what yours is on?
Yeah.
All of those bands were just releasing stuff on CMC, and it was like, I mean, they were just pumping out shitty album after shitty album.
You're talking CMC Music Factory?
But I can remember, and obviously, you know, with Ripper being a, you know, local hero here, and that first Winter's Bane album is killer, man. It's really good. And I think Century Media re-released it like several years ago. I mean, I would urge anybody to buy it. It's a killer metal album. And so I thought, oh man, it's like a local guy, you know. I actually saw Ripper's before he was in Priest. He did a cover band of all, like, I think it was just called Seattle. And he'd get up there and do like Alice in Chains and stuff, and the dude nailed it. It was crazy. The guy's vocals were so good. And we went and saw him at some dive bar just a couple miles from my house here at Ron's Crossroads. It's not there anymore. But so I was pumped, man. I was like, oh, I'm going to buy Jugulator. This is going to be killer. And just everything about it, like, it's too heavy for a Priest album. I
Yeah.
love heavy music, obviously, but it just sounded weird. But the lyrics were so horrible. And the song titles like decapitated and dead meat and
Yeah, your head, you will lose it.
Yeah, so this episode is the first time I've listened to those Priest albums. I've never heard them until recently.
Cathedral. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so I felt the same way. It's like it was just heavy, but not in a good way. And then it was like not melodic at all. It felt like they wasted Ripper's voice. Like he didn't seem like they let him actually belt out and do his, his register that he's really known for. And I when I was done, I couldn't remember a single riff that stuck with me. It was just like it's like almost like not new metal, but like it felt like it was very influenced by the late 90s for sure, like trying to sound like more modern, but nothing catchy, nothing stuck at all. Just it almost sounds like they drop tuned, which seems so weird for Priest. It was awful. Like I hated both. I hate the Maiden albums, but at least there's a couple riffs that I can remember, and some of it's at least comically bad. This is just fucking garbage. The two Priest albums.
That dropped down like Pantera's Far Beyond Driven. They tried to go super heavy, and it just doesn't work.
I agree. And I Cathedral Spires is the only song on Jugulator that I think it's a good tune. You can hear some classic Priest in it. I'm wondering if maybe it was like a leftover from an earlier, because it doesn't.
You guys know Priest way more than I do, but like, so who was the main songwriter on that album? Was it Shared, or was it all KK? Or
well, those lyrics are either Ripper or Tipton, because Tipton writes shitty lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it gives.
I saw Ripper after he was out of Priest. He was actually in Iced Earth at that point, and he was just hanging out at a show in Cleveland, and he's like the nicest guy ever. I don't know him personally, obviously, but you see him at shows, he's very personable. I mean, you walk up, hey, what's going on? He will like literally take the time to talk to you. And then throughout the night, if you sit, like when he walks by you, he'll come up and pat you on the back. He'll look at you from like across the room and give you the horns or the thumbs up and wave at you.
That's really cool.
So he's like a really good dude. But I went up to him and I was like, hey, what's up? And he was just like, nobody was saying anything to him. And I said, he had his typical fitted cap on that he always wears. And he was with his probably wife or girlfriend. And I said, I got to be honest with you, man. I absolutely hated you in Judas Priest. I mean, it was absolutely fucking horrible, but you're great in Iced Earth. And he just started laughing and he was like, thanks. But he was like, I had nothing to do with Priest. I basically went in there, recorded my vocals.
It's all Tipton and Downing. Says wrote all the songs on Jugulator.
I was just wondering because it's such a drastic change, but I was wondering if someone maybe took over the songwritings more, but I don't know. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Obviously, probably just the sign of the times, right? They realized that the metal was going out in popularity, so they tried to accommodate to the fucking whatever is going on now. But it was a horribly bad decision. Whoever's in charge of them should have been fired for agreeing to have them go down that road.
Well, Jason brought it's a good point that it's like far beyond. It's like that Pantera late 90s.
That was the path that metal was going. Like you said, that new metal and that tuning down to D.
It just stinks. This is Jason's like speechless.
I really, the only thing, you want to hear numbers?
Yeah,
let's hear it.
All right, let's see. Jugulator comes out November 97, sells 110,000 units in the US, hits number 82 on Billboard.
You're telling me that Jugulator basically sold the same amount as X Factor?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. 58 minutes long, 10 songs, 73% on Metal Archives.
Jason, do you have stats on how many people have returned it the next day?
I do not. That I do
All
not.
110 were in the used bin by next week.
Yeah.
I stayed away from that album when it came out because I had no expectations for it. I didn't want to hear it. And God, it was a Metal Maniacs article. I think it was that S. Craig Zoller guy wrote it. And it was, at the end of it, it had like unsung Priest songs or something, like kind of like deep tracks that everyone needs to hear, and it had like The Rage on it, stuff like that. But it had Cathedral Spires on it. And I think it was probably at the tail end of obviously a Priest interview. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get it. And I honestly didn't hate it the first time I listened to it. I was, I didn't think it was great, but I was like, yeah, it's decent. It's listenable. And I actually like 3 songs on the album, but 3 out of, what is it, 10, Jason? What is that percentage, math guy? 30?
Yeah, 30% approval rating.
And it's not the lyrics that I like, it's the music. And I like on Abductors, he sounds a little, he does his best Halford because he does those little trills kind of, where he's, and I kind of like that. I didn't think he was ripping him off. It was known that's what you were going to get.
Mhm.
Give us your Demolition stats, Jason.
Well, Demolition was released after 2000. That was this is a month. Demolition is released a month before 9/11. So August 17th, 2001, sales only 52,000 units. Jugulator was 73% on Metal Archives. Demolition is 61% on Metal Archives. It has 13 songs, runs 70 minutes, 49 seconds. The 2 Priest albums are longer than the 2 Maiden albums by about 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
So you're saying Demolition caused 9/11? That's what they were getting. Well, no, they would have attacked Europe. Never mind.
They played well, first with any of those album sales, is 90% of it's probably from the Akron area, because I don't think anybody else ever wanted to buy them. But they played, was it Feed on Me from Demolition? I think they played that song on the radio, around here. And I remember when I heard it and I thought, okay, this sounds a little more Priest-like, but the lyrics were just corny. And then I remember when I got the album and I thought, how is it possible that this could be worse than Jugulator? And I literally thought that Maiden and Priest were just dead. I actually, I was like, this is it. Like, these guys are done. It's like total garbage. Like, there's no coming back from this at all. And I don't know, especially with Halford doing the
well, with Halford doing his first album, he he answered the call. He delivered, I thought. Resurrection, compared to Demolition or Jugulator.
The album sales for Resurrection are not probably what you expect.
Oh, they're going to be low. They're going to be super low. Yeah. I mean, I would expect that, especially around that time. But that's also when Bruce had come back to Maiden, because Halford opened that tour, and that's like they sold out Madison Square Garden in like some, a handful of minutes or an hour or something, It wasn't because Queensryche was on the bill. I can tell you that.
No.
I saw that show at Irvine Meadows. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I went to the Tacoma Dome for that thing.
Oh, I was there, Pat. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So it was.
Well, that sucks because Queensryche's from Seattle, so they got like an extended opening set. They're giving us 2 more songs. I'm like, fuck no, get off the stage, man.
That was, that's horrible era of Queensryche.
So this is what I
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was Q2K.
Oh God.
Yeah, never heard it. Never heard it except for, I guess, if they played shit at that show. Never heard it. Don't want to.
Same here.
Absolutely horrible.
Yeah, but it's just crazy though, because transitioning to the solo stuff, like those Bruce solo and Halford solo just completely dominated. Like how much better those albums are than the two we were just talking about from Priest and Maiden. And it's just weird. Like, I mean, Steve Harris was still writing the songs on these albums and Brave New World, but did he just remember how to write a goddamn song again when Bruce came back? Or did Bruce come in there and say, I'm only coming back if you stop this fucking bullshit that you did on these last two albums? And same thing with Halford. Like, I'll come back, but you got to start writing actual goddamn music that I don't want to vomit when I hear.
Well, what do you guys think about Halford and Dickinson? Kind of, that was like that whole era where some of these, like the metal godfathers of metal, they were kind of shitting on metal, and Halford, metal's dead, and like, Dee Snider said the same thing, and then Halford put out that 2 album, which, I love Halford and I love John 5. I don't love him on that album's horrible. And Dickinson kind of, I remember hearing Skunkworks back in the day, and the young me was like, this is just alternative crap, but it's not.
Yeah. No.
And but yeah,
well, that's kind of like weirdly placed because Balls to Picasso came out before it, correct? Am I correct? And then Skunkworks, and then he went, Accident at Birth and all that, which that's just, to me, that one album is just the anomaly of those, not counting Tattooed Millionaire because he was still in Maiden, and I think that album's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But I think all his solo stuff, I know we're only really looking at those 2, is overall pretty high quality on the scheme of things.
What do you think, Jason?
I'm just looking at my timeline here. So
please tell me you listened to Tears of the Dragon.
Oh yeah, that's a good song.
That's the best song on.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Balls, okay?
Here's the thing about Balls. Okay? Tell me the thing about them.
Tell us about Balls.
I texted Nick the other day and I was like, yeah, I'm jamming Balls right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh man.
So I went ahead and listened to the 2-disc version of Balls to Picasso. Tears of the Dragon, everything before that song, if it's just the regular album, the first 9 songs on that, I think I like the production on it. It's got like a real live feel to it, like live in studio feel. I don't really like a lot of the songs. I don't think they're bad, but there's something about the album that is kind of endearing to me. I don't know. I'm probably just that.
It's probably Tears of the Dragon. It seriously is.
I remember buying the album, listening to the whole thing and being like, this is okay. But then Tears came on and I was like, this is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. And then the second disc actually gets a little better after Tears, but there's one song, and I think it's No Way Out, To Be Continued, that song. And he does I was losing it in my car because I totally forgot about it when I was listening to it. It's so bad because he does like a spoken word and his voice just sounds really bad and the music's going and Bruce is just like, and it's like,
I don't know anything about this 2-disc version. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, because I think there's a 2-disc of Skunkworks too.
yes, yeah, and it's came out, Sanctuary re-released it.
Huh. Okay. I'll have to check out that second disc because I don't mind the album at all. Obviously, Tears is the highlight, but Laughing in the Hiding Bush is a great song.
1,000 Points of Light.
Yeah, it's definitely more metal. It felt like Tattooed is more rock based, but this definitely had more balls to it, if you want to say, than Tattooed Millionaire.
What about you, Jason? Do you guys like? You just said it was a piece of shit, Tattooed Millionaire. What about? you guys are a little older, but I never liked that album. So was that big when it came out? Like, did people like it or?
Grandfather, tell us a story.
I don't remember people liking that. Well, then again, like the only people that I would have been that I would have been talking to about it were friends that liked Maiden. So no, because it was too much like rock. It wasn't Maiden, you know. So it was like, because he had a video I remember that was on MTV, and it was like, I didn't buy Tattooed Millionaire until that was probably the last Bruce solo album I bought, just to have it, you know, because it never interested me and what I'd heard of it.
And I'm completing my math degree at Fullerton in 93, 94. And I was so into thrash metal at the time, and it was dying. You know, the grunge movement came in, but I was still, you know, I was German thrash. I was in my truck was Creator, Sodom, Tankard, and Destruction. I mean, that's what I was listening to. And when I heard these albums, when I heard the solo Dickinson, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear Maiden. You know, I was in my early 20s, and I didn't want to hear a rock Bruce. I didn't want to hear a radio friendly Bruce. So these albums, like I said, when we started this video, I'm like, how am I going to contribute to this? Because I totally turned my back to these albums. They're
how about the later, just not to talk too much about them, but how about the later Bruce stuff? Like Chemical Wedding.
That's when I came back.
Okay.
Yeah. Accident of Birth, Chemical Wedding, and
Tyranny of Souls. Yeah.
Tyranny of Souls.
Tyranny was after he was back in Maiden, though.
Yeah.
And he just announced that he's working on another solo album, so that's gonna be great.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, Chemical Wedding is probably it's just a flawless album. I mean, that's the best thing that Maiden or Dickinson has done since '95 or '96 when it came out.
Yeah, and I Skunkworks, I was actually turned on to Skunkworks by Fortress, you know, a guy we know. But I remember going to his place, and I said, you know, I never heard that album. And he was like, well, you got to hear, you know, the one song on it.
Solar Confinement.
No, the Back from the Edge. And he played it, and I was like, you know, I never gave this album a chance. I always thought it was alternative, you know. And when I heard that song, it's a really good hook. And it sounds kind of weird to say it's not alternative at all. It's really proggy to me. I don't know. It just has like this prog feel, almost like a Queensryche-ish prog in a way, but it's really good. I mean, I think it's a really well done album. I think the stuff on it blows away, other than, well, it blows away all, you know, those 4 Priest and Maiden albums that we've been talking about. But those are two, to me, they're like 2 completely different albums. And Roy Z wasn't on Skunkworks, but I think Roy Z's on Balls Picasso.
Yeah, it was like wasn't it like a totally different band?
He had like a studio band
just
kind of
for that one album.
Yeah. I'm not a big Skunkworks fan. I haven't listened to it for a long time until this, and just Bruce's voice, as much as I love him, it just doesn't jive with the overall vibe. I know you're saying alternative, and I kind of get that, because it felt like half the time I was listening to a Smashing Pumpkins album with Bruce Dickinson singing, and it just, I don't know. And then the video for that second song you're talking about, From the Edge,
yeah,
is just like, you know, it's all strobe light. I know it's a sign of the times and everything, but maybe because watching that video with that song made it seem so alternative.
I didn't even know he put out videos for that shit.
Yeah, don't watch it. But yeah, it's just like, just listening to the music though, it's like I said, it sounds like some Billy Corgan throwaway songs with Bruce Dickinson singing.
Have you ever heard it, Jason? Have you ever heard Skunk Works or?
Not just the first time all the way through is when we listened, when we decided to do this episode. And I would go back and listen to it. Absolutely. But, it's just, we kind of agreed to do this episode, people, I think on Monday, right? Somebody texted, let's do this Friday. And then I responded in a text. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm listening to those 4 albums over again. It's just not happening. So, but the solo stuff, yes. The solo Halford stuff, sure. Which I think are the best, I guess, of all the subgroups here. So, but yeah, and then in my collection, I noticed that I have Virtual 11, and I'm like, why do I have this? Why do I own this?
Because it's fucking Maiden.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because lightning strikes twice, Jason.
But I do not own X Factor. Well,
Wow, that's kind of.
but I do own both Priests.
You own Demolition.
You own Demolition, but you don't own X Factor. Like,
Yeah.
At least the X Factor,
that's a problem.
at least the X Factor has sign of a cross on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the saving grace.
Well, and that's going back to that album. That song had to have been like already kind of in the works or something when Bruce left, because to me that sounds like that was written for Bruce.
Yeah.
Because that's not written for Bailey's range and all that shit. Because when you hear Bruce do it live, I mean, it makes that song. It's really more than tolerable, but not much more than tolerable. But it's good to a degree. But like, I can't listen to it with Blaze anymore.
Yeah, a lot of bands are like that. Like, Falconer, after Matthias left after the first album, or the second album, the third album that they had for the other guy was written for Matthias. And then the fourth album, which is fucking awful by Falconer, is because they actually wrote for that singer. So it's kind of what some bands do. They have that material thinking they have the singer in the bag, but they bail, so they force some other guy to sing it.
Yeah. I think that I don't think either of, that's the weird thing. I think that Virtual 11 was probably written more with Blaze in mind. I don't think either of the Priests, I don't think those guys gave a shit about Ripper. I think they just like shit out a couple albums and said, go do the vote.
That's what my brother was saying, because I was talking about this, and we talked about Cyberface because of those lyrics, and he said, like, Ripper, like, pretty much said, I'm fucking done with this band, I have to sing these lyrics, was what it is.
But I heard that that's how Priest kind of was. I've read in the past, and then a buddy of mine, Kevin, told me a while ago that he read or heard somewhere that that Priest has always kind of done this, even with Dave Holland's drum parts, like on Defenders of the Faith, that they just had him go in, and if I'm getting it right, and just record a bunch of drum parts, and then KK and Glenn just kind of sat down and then said, okay, let's take this part here, we'll put it here, we'll take this part and put it to this song, we'll take this part. So it was like, it doesn't surprise, I guarantee. I'd like to pick Ripper's brain and say, were you even in the room, at least with Demolition? And it probably wasn't. It was probably like, okay, you can come to the studio now and do your vocals. The album's written.
Or you can record them in Akron and then have them shipped to wherever the hell, they're.
Then here the lyrics are singing, by the way.
Yeah. That's, I don't care how. And we also have to talk about his shadow boxing on stage, because that's like the worst thing ever. It's so.
Yeah, he needs to be with Yannick. They need to do something together.
Dude, that's like when I saw Iced Earth I'm sorry, it wasn't Iced Earth with Stu Block. It was Into Eternity, because Stu Block used to be the vocalist. And I thought, this guy's a clown, like I wasn't really into Eternity. but he would like run back and forth across stage, slide on his knees, and kind of do like this, and
Yeah, I've seen Into Eternity. Yeah,
it was just. And when I see Ripper on stage, it's like he doesn't know what to do, and it's kind of the same thing where he's like doing the shadow boxing, and he's got the it's a little corny,
with
but
the fucking monster ball cap on.
I meant it years ago when he had his restaurant, and we went and saw Eddie Trunk and Don Jameson from That Metal Show, and Ripper was walking around, and I had my Amorphous shirt on, Jason. Amorphous Black Winter Day, and he had everything in there was Monster. Like Monster and Monster hats. He was selling Monster hats. He had like Monster like tapestries and banners, and like I was like, what is this guy doing? Is he? So I don't know. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, I don't know. But when I gave up on Maiden, I gave up on Priest, and like you said, Jason, at that time you were listening to like thrash metal, especially with like Tattooed Millionaire and all this other stuff. But that brings up a good point, because around the time that those Maiden and Priest albums were released, I was really getting into like the Swedish death metal and the European stuff, and I discovered Hypocrisy, and it like changed everything, and Moonspell, and
Yeah, it's true. As the really popular metal died, that's where you got that awesome rush of the underground 92, 93 for Black Death shit coming out. It was like the saving grace. Like maybe Transylvania Hunger was written because they were so upset with Fear of the Dark.
But yeah, I don't know, like I still bought stuff from like that old guard and all those old bands. Like I still collected albums from them, but it wasn't like, I just wasn't into it that much. I was more excited to go to the record store and find stuff that was like thrash metal, death metal, black metal.
Well, but also look at what you got when you got it. You know what I mean? It's like, because those are, those bands are like blind buys kind of, and then when you get let down that hard because where they came from and then where they went, that is such a drop. There's not, to me, you can't find many threads of any of those earlier albums on any of those four. I mean, yeah, it's Maiden, you can tell Harris, with all his bass lines and stuff, but it's just, it's kind of like when I listen to those albums, it gives me a bigger appreciation for Fear of the Dark, which I was never a huge fan of. I liked a few songs on it, but all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, that's not too bad.
All of a sudden, The Apparition is the best song Iron Maiden ever wrote. Fuck The Apparition. Well, we didn't talk anything at all about the Halford solo stuff, though.
Yeah, that's next. I'm gonna let Jason do it, because he said that you said that's the best. You like that out of all of it.
Yeah, if you want to, well, he's not up against stiff competition here with the other three.
Yeah, just give me like a B- and you'll win this competition.
Give me like Patrick 3 out of 10. Give me like 6 out of 10, and I'm going for gold here. So, let's see. Does anybody know how long Bruce was out of Iron Maiden?
92 was Fear of the Dark, so 93 to 2000, 7 years.
Yeah, 6 years. He's
6
only out
years.
of 10.
Well, 92 was Fear of the Dark, so he left in 94 after the tour, I guess.
Scouring over the internet, it told me that Bruce was back in 99.
Yeah, because they did those Ed Hunter
99. Yeah,
or whatever.
there you go.
Yeah.
So Bruce, so all of this happens. Bruce is only out of the band 6 years.
That was a long fucking 6 years too.
How long is Rob out of Priest?
That was longer.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, it was from Painkiller.
Painkiller up until
Angel
Retribution.
What's Angel of Retribution? 04.
03?
Oh,
04?
04, 05, somewhere around there.
So the internet told me that Rob was back in 03.
The internet told you.
The internet told me. So he's where's my notes? Because he left to form God. Oh no, I'm wrong. So he formed 2 in 96.
But he did fight before that.
There you go. There you
So
go.
he did
Rob-
fight, then he did 2, then he did Halford, then he went back to Priest.
So yeah, Rob leaves Priest in 92, forms Fight, takes Scott Travis with him. They exist for 3 years, put out War of Words and
Never heard of Fight.
yeah.
It's kind of Pantera-ish.
Yeah.
You never heard of Fight?
I will pass that if it's Pantera-ish.
War of Words, I think is you guys are gonna make fun of me because
There it is, right there.
no, but I think it's great.
Yeah. September of 93 sells 223,000 units. It's number 83.
What did?
War of Words.
Oh,
Who's the one guitar player on it? See if you guys can
it's
Nick Gears.
see if Pat knows.
no, isn't it
And I
that
was-
dude that went on to, like, he was in Pain Museum then?
Well, that Pat Lackman is one of them, and I think I'm talking about Russ Parrish, who is in Steel Panther.
And whose dad was in Deep Purple.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, Russ Parrish was the guitar player. He's God, I can't even remember that.
Yeah. September 93 sells 223,000 units. Small Deadly Space is April of 95, sells 67,000 units.
Back when like CDs were still a thing. That's awful.
Yeah.
So what about the Halford ones?
Let's see, where's my notes? Resurrection in 2000 sells 60,000 units, number 140 in August. Crucible in 2002. You ready for this? Crucible in 02, 15,000 units. Wow.
I think that's when he's just like he calls up Glenn and KK like so
Is that Shadow Boxer out yet?
yeah, is that Shadow Boxer gone? I'm ready.
Okay, now you ready? I found this. Winter Songs in 09.
Is that part 1 or part 2?
I didn't know there was a part 2.
Yeah.
I got 2000 whenever Winter Songs in 09 came out. 1,400 units.
All right, I'm sorry to anyone listening, but the next episode is going to be Rob Halford's Christmas.
Yeah, Made of Metal. The one with the car on it, right?
No,
Yeah.
no.
2010.
Hmm.
3,100 units.
You know why? I've never heard that album. I always thought it was a bootleg because it looks so generic. I was like, what is this? This is so stupid looking. I just never bought it. But Crucible's a killer album.
It is, and that's what's crazy is like when Resurrection came out, I really liked it. There were some parts I didn't think were great, but overall I thought this is fucking great. Crucible came out and I could never get through it. I never liked it. And then back in May or whenever we were talking about this, I really revisited it and listened to it, and I was like, God, everything about it is better. The songs are better. It's even a little bit heavier. It's got some great hooks. It's and the production, it's even more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Halford definitely wins solo and between all 8 of these albums. Those Halford albums win, but if you were to throw in Bruce's, Accident and
Well, yeah,
Chemical, those are going to win. But of these 8 albums, those Halford ones were easily the most tolerable.
Oh yeah, if it was Accident of Birth, I mean, for me that would overtake anything because I remember buying that album and just being like, with having Adrian Smith there, and I mean, it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. And there's actually a 2 CD version of that too, Nick.
Well, son of a bitch.
I've got Dickinson sales numbers here too.
Wow.
So
Here.
Tattooed Millionaire, May of 1990, hits number 100 with 20,000 sales. Balls to Picasso, June of 94, hits number 185, but it sells 65,000 units.
Wow.
So I don't know. Maybe there was a
Maybe
mouth on that one.
maybe that's when the first Creed album came out.
Skunkworks 96 only sells 20,000. Accident of Birth, June of 97, sells 46,000. Chemical Wedding in July of 98 sells 41,000. And I couldn't find numbers for Tyranny of Souls, which was 05. So we're talking 7 years between Chemical Wedding and Tyranny of Souls. But it did say Tyranny of Souls hit the charts at 180, but it didn't. I couldn't find numbers for it. I also have YouTube comments for specific videos.
Oh, I got to hear these.
So let's see.
Do you have them? Please tell me you have them for X Factor, or I mean for Virtual 11.
I found one today. I'm going to look it up real quick for Regulator.
Okay, here
Go
we go.
ahead.
Here we go. Future Real. 911,000 views. One comment said, "Beautiful song and amazing live." Another one, "My favorite song of all time." Say what you want. This is a great heavy metal song.
These are fun.
Hey, Jason, you know Patrick Gosh, Mostrun?
Yeah, Mosh.
Jugulator is his favorite Priest album.
Wow.
Like of all, and I'm not
Of
saying
all of
favorite
them.
Ripper album, it's his favorite Priest album.
Okay.
Is that the only Priest album he has? The only one he's ever...
Okay. 4 more comments for Future Real. I'm sorry, 5 more. The Love Child of Bruce and Meatloaf. I love this tune. I would love to see Bruce sing this one.
I found Jason on Jugulator. There's this YouTube comment. So this guy was tending bar at a biker bar in Belgium. It was early noon. The only people who came in was a grandfather who was 80 years old and his grandchildren. The guy, white hair, blah, blah, blah. So I started playing soft stuff like Aerosmith. After 10 minutes, the old dude puts his coffee down, walks in, straightens his tie, leans on the bar and says, "Hey, do you have anything harder? I hope you put something on like Priest. I want to let my grandparents hear some real music. Jugulator is my favorite album of all time. That motherfucker just slams from start to finish." What 80-year-old in Belgium calls Jugulator that motherfucker slams?
Oh, jeez.
Let's see. Another comment for Future Real. Thank God for Bruce. I keep hearing, "Watch me squeal, Future Real." I don't like Blaze Bailey, but they look happy together.
Have you seen? I don't have it with me. The Live Insurrection, the live album.
Yeah,
which is
Yeah.
great.
that's awesome too.
But the seat, when you open it up, and the picture on the CD is just the back of Halford's head, and it looks like the head of a dick.
Yeah, I don't think that was unintentional.
Like we opened it. I remember when I opened it.
Hey, ram it down, Kip. Ram it down.
We were just sitting there looking at it like, does he know that this looks like so horrible, dude? I think Pat's got to get it. It's so bad. We would laugh about that for so long. And I'm like, come on, man, there's got to be some quality control. You got to like look at the pictures and say, all right.
I'm seeing quality control on Pat's camera right now.
Oh, he's got it. Oh, just wait, Jason. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
It also looks like it's from the Goonies.
Yes.
That's so bad, dude.
Yeah. All right.
That's Goonies.
Comments for Angel and the Gambler.
Give me your top two.
Top two. Ranked number 165 out of a possible 165. I don't know which one's a bigger mess, the song or the video.
Video was bad.
Is the video got a bunch of CGI?
Yes.
Yeah,
Like
it was-
CGI Eddie, like rolling gaff.
Yeah. Okay. I've probably seen it once or something, but
the best ever Maiden video. The CGI is groundbreaking.
Oh my God. Dude, some of these people, like some of the fans, I when you're that much of a fan that you can't criticize
Can't criticize.
a band, you're just like a blind follower. And it's
Absolutely insane.
This is
like, yeah,
Iron Maiden.
it's like
This is Iron Maiden.
there's people that literally think Maiden's never put out a bad album or written a bad song. And look, I love Deceased and I love King Fowley from Deceased. The guy's a legend. He's like he's super great dude, you know, but we've gone back and forth here and there, not recently, but a couple years ago.
yeah, because he said he digs Virtual 11.
Oh, dude. He said his quote was, and I remember, Maiden has never released a bad song. And I said, Angel and the Gambler would like to have a word with you. And he said, even that's great. And then went on, and then like started shitting all over Priest. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm a Priest fanboy, and I can admit that Jugulator and Demolition are absolute diarrhea. I have and Nostradamus, I've tried to listen to 100 times. I can't get into it. Remember that one guy? I think he's from Cleveland. He
listened to it like it was 300 and some days straight, or 400 days.
Yeah, every day he listened. I'm just like,
at least one time all the way.
Just listening to the album once, just listening to Nostradamus once feels like 300 days.
I'm like, the fact that guy's not in a straitjacket or didn't commit suicide is.
Going on YouTube, you'll always find someone like looking up at The Unbeliever, and you go down to the YouTube comments like, I know this album gets shit on, but this song really showcases Steve Harris's sensibility writing or whatever. Like, Jesus Christ. Admit this song is absolute garbage.
Yeah, and that's what I don't get. Like, people just, when it comes to Maiden, especially Maiden, and you guys know I haven't been that big of a fan. The last album I truly love is Seventh Son. I don't think anything they've done after it, although I just showed you guys the new album. It's surprising that I bought it and that I even spent the money on the media book, and I like it. I don't think it's, I'll go back to it and listen to it, but I don't get it. I think Solo Dickinson absolutely destroys reunion era Maiden. Destroys.
Yeah, I agree.
And I can't
say that it destroys. I say I do. It is bad, like especially Chemical and Accident. Tyranny was all right, but
no, Chemical and Accident are just
10 out of 10.
Yeah. Perfect albums.
Yeah, Halford Solo is way better than what the fuck Priest has done. I think I never heard Firepower, but apparently that one's good. But everything else,
Firepower, don't you, Jason?
Yeah. I think that one's a little bit better than Redeemer of Souls, and I think Firepower is their best since Painkiller. It's a pretty good return to form.
I think the songs.
I don't know. They all those post Rob out of the Rob's Return albums. The only issue I have is that they're just so, to me, they're so uneven. They've got like a good chunk of good songs, and then they've got like some that are still just like,
Do you like Firepower, Pat?
I like it, but I don't. I mean, I still like Angel of Retribution more, even though I think there's probably, if this makes any sense, there's probably more songs I like on Firepower than Angel of Retribution, but I think the songs that I do like on Angel are stronger, if that makes sense.
It's weird that, coincidental that we're talking about this today, doing the episode, because
KK's album came out today.
KK's Priest that I listened to while I was working, from home here, doing reports and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's right, it came out, even though it's not going to be here for like another week. Amazon, I guess, I don't know, but and I listened to the whole thing, and it's a fun album.
That's Ripper though, right?
Yes. I'd rather he would have called it KK's Steel Mill, because I thought that was a little cooler and it kind of got away from the Priest thing. But I don't know, the guitar solos are great on it. I just think it's a fun album. And I think that there's people, like some of the comments were, this is a metal album for the ages, and
hyperbole much there, Jesus Christ.
It's just a fun album. But not only that, but the guitar player for Priest, Richie Faulkner, I guess, had a massive heart attack on stage and then finished the show, and then had open heart surgery or whatever. I hope he's
on stage too. His open heart surgery was on stage.
It was all part of like the Raising Hell Maiden thing.
Yeah.
It was like a
magician.
Richie's final show before we bring KK back. We're gonna kill him on stage and have this surgery, and then he's gonna be an animatronic like puppet. We're gonna have 4 guitarists: Richie, KK, Andy Sneap, and then Glenn Tipton when able.
And Yannick Gers.
Yeah.
All right, kids, I love you, but my family from out of town just showed up, so I gotta get bounced.
I got one question for you, Nick.
Yeah.
Before you go.
Ooh, Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden rules heavy metal.
All right.
All day long. Especially even in the dark days, those Maiden albums are still more listenable than those Priest albums. And it's a D- to an F+ ratio, but
I agree.
Maiden gets the D-.
That's the shocking thing, that I like the Maiden. Well, I like X Factor better than, out of the 4, I like X Factor better than those 4, just between Priest and Maiden.
Jugulator would probably be as number 2.
I don't know. You know what I'm going to say? I like the X Factor. The other 3 are tied for like absolute dog shit. I just can't do it.
Nobody wants to read. Nobody wants to hear me read YouTube comments for Judas Priest.
I think next we'll have to have Jason come up with the next topic. This one seemed to be a little
yeah,
I don't like I but
he's like a snake out of water.
I was, yes. Completely. Yep.
No, but this was great, and I'm glad that we're doing this again. It was months overdue, but yeah, let's do it again soon. And Jason, think of something. Think of it.
All right.
Like ranking the Haunt albums.
Yeah, everybody loves everybody. Oh, hold on.
Well, that's my number 3.
All right. Well, yeah.
All right.
Go to your family, Nick, and Jason, Pat. Yeah, we'll see you soon. And
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Kip. Love you guys.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Definitely.
All right.
Later.
Hey, kids.